Welcome to our Devos. We are talking about being consistently generous. How we can shift our mindsets and be people that plan to be generous, not people that are spontaneously generous. And one of the ways that we can become consistently generous, this is super helpful, is when we trust God's providence. Now, I talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the week when I talked about the abundance mindset, and how the abundance mindset essentially is where we get the idea that there is enough, that God can provide enough. But I want to take it a step further. We have to be willing to trust in God's providence, that He desires to give, not that there just is resources for Him to give, but He desires to give, He wants to give, and sometimes when we step out in faith, He reaches past that and gives and blesses in an even more abundant way. This happens repeatedly in the lives of people who sacrificially and consistently give. It says in Luke chapter 6, verse 38, He says, "Give and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap." Now, this idea of giving, Jesus Himself is saying, look, you give, it's going to be given back to you. Now, before you start to burn me at the stake and say that's prosperity preaching, that's prosperity gospel, it's really not. This is simply the idea of believing that if you give, God is going to bless your life in that way. We don't ever say it's prosperity when we apply that to other areas that aren't financial. I'll give you an example. If we say, look, the way you have a good marriage is you have to be a good spouse. You have to be a good spouse. I know, I'm sowing the seed of being a good spouse to my wife. And sometimes I don't sow that seed. And then I'm like, I don't know why my marriage isn't that great. Or I don't know why we're not getting along that well. Well, it's because I have not given myself to the idea of being a good spouse. And any Christian leader worth their salt is going to say, look, the way that you have friends is you be friendly. The way that you have a good marriage is that you be a good person in that marriage. You don't just say, oh, my marriage is bad. Well, you have to be a better version of yourself that creates a better marriage. So essentially, it's all the same principle. And when it comes to giving, when you give, God will match in kind and sometimes not in kind. So the Bible says also in Galatians, whatever you sow, you're going to reap. But sometimes you don't reap the exact way that you sow. So there are people that they gave financially and God blesses them in other ways. It's not like, oh, I gave $20 last week and God blessed me with $50 this week. It doesn't always work like that. But what you need to realize is that God desires to provide for you. He provides for you as a father, and the gift of His providence comes through the filtering and loving hand of His own will. But you have to trust that He can provide. You have to trust that He wants to provide. And you have to trust that if you're giving sacrificially and consistently, that He also can do more than you would imagine. Trusting His providence is a big mindset shift in order to take risks. I'm in a season of risk right now for myself personally. I am in a build mode of a business that I started really last year, at the beginning of this year. I started planning last year, and now I'm trying to grow it. Well, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my whole adult life. I've always had something else going on, starting things and real estate, but I've never worked in a way where it's all depending on the results that I bring. This is a build season. And so because I'm in a build season, I keep reminding myself of what God provides. And I remind myself of how God has provided so much for my wife and I over the years that now this new season, he wants to do the same thing. He's the same God, but I have to honor Him. I have to make sure that when I'm blessed, I can be generous. That I'm generous in advance, knowing that He wants to bless. And so as I think about that, I think about this season. Now, that's the way we ought to look at giving. When you're giving, you are essentially trusting that God can and will provide, that He wants to provide, that He is able to provide, that He looks at you and He's partnering with you with the resources that He's given you to enable you to step out in faith and to become consistently generous.